Hey folks, Nathan here. This is the next in our series of content overviews for material from Final Girl. We've taken a look at all of the stuff from the first three Kickstarters. We've taken a look at North Pole Nightmare, some various odds and ends over time, but this begins sort of a shift in our coverage because there is a shift as well to how they're actually releasing everything. So this film here is the first of series 4, Bad Times at Buddyland. And the idea is that now, instead of it being one giant Kickstarter for everything in a series or a Game Found campaign or whatever it might be, instead, the individual films will be released periodically throughout a year, at least the first 4 out of 5 for a particular series. The 5th one would then be added to that final Kickstarter that's sort of a culminating thing that'll include things like a storage box, the ability to get anything that you missed, and that last film. At least as of the time of their Year of Fear announcements that did hit prior to the tariffs. This one has actually hit a little bit early because of the tariff situation. Basically, they wanted to make sure that this first film for Series 4 got into the US prior to the tariff. So there was sort of a pre-sale just for this film. Not even the miniatures or anything for it, just the film itself. Now there is also, or has also been, a Game Found campaign for sort of the first wave of stuff for Series 4 and Gen Con 2025. In that case, it includes Bad Times at Buddyland, it includes the new special feature Shriek, it includes the miniature pack for Bad Times at Buddyland. Shriek is a special feature, so the miniatures are already in there, along with 2 new promo final girls, Meg and Julie. Also, as part of this, they're changing up more about their release model. So, in the past, if you wanted to get the vehicle miniatures for a series, you got them all in one box for all 5 films of that series, even if you didn't necessarily need them for all 5 because you only bought a few. Same thing for the Final Girls and Killers that were in the miniatures pack for that particular series. Now, you're going to be able to get the miniature packs as individual film packages. So in this case, quite a few miniatures here for Bad Times at Buddyland, and we'll look at what those miniatures would go with here in a bit. Those have not been released yet, but you'd be able to get them just for this film, just for the next film, and so on. Also, one of the things that was usually a stretch goal on Kickstarter would wind up in the bonus features box for a particular series, the epic finale cards. Those are now automatically included inside the feature film boxes, just like the epic Dark Powers. Also, for those promo final girls, until Series 3, promo final girls were just a card. Series 3 gave them a secret envelope, gave them a miniature, and so forth. Rather than having to deal with that with stretch goals, these promo final girls for Gen Con 2025 are simply going to have their card, miniature, and secret envelope all already inside a little box. So they're making it a little bit easier to get things piecemeal while still being able to get things throughout a year bit by bit, and then either pick up everything if you didn't, or just what you're missing in a cumulative Kickstarter at the end of the year. Though there has been no confirmation that the promo final girls or Shriek, which are not part of Series 4 technically, would be part of that Series 4 crowdfunding campaign. A lot of stuff with that is still to be determined. But that does mean that we actually have a new feature film here to look at relatively quickly after the release of Series 3 to launch off Series 4. This is, again, Bad Times at Buddyland. Full disclosure, I am a playtester for Final Girl starting with Series 3, so this is one of the ones that I playtested, and yes, this copy was provided by Ryder Games. So we have Final Girl, Ryder Games, directed by Monty Eisenbach, director of photography, Jackie Davis, featuring Buddyland, that's the location there. The other side, same information here, except starring Billy the Bear, as one would expect. The normal stuff there on the bottom with one player, 20 to 60 minutes, ages 14 plus. All the copyright information, address information, and all that good stuff. The UPC with nothing there on the top. And then your 2 spines. One is going to be vertical. Final Girl, Bad Times at Buddyland. Then there's Billy, starring Billy the Bear, and featuring Buddyland. And the other side, in case you want to put them horizontal, has your horizontal layout of essentially the same stuff. Ryder Games, Final Girl, Bad Times at Buddyland, Billy, Buddyland. When picking this up at retail, of course, you would have some type of sheet in there inside the shrink wrap to tell you what in the world is going on with this particular film, and it says, "The good times are over at Buddyland. For years, Billy Bear and his animatronic buddies entertained kids and adults alike. Now, Billy is out to kill you and anyone else in his path, and joining him might be 1, 2, 3, or all 7 buddies. The variable setup will make it a surprise each time. Be sure to turn off Billy's power supplies or he'll just keep recharging. Good luck surviving the night. Buddyland might look a little run down, but there's still fun for everyone at the arcade. Use tokens to activate the pinball, claw, or skee ball machines. There's even a party room that can accommodate any size group, large or small. Be sure to call and book your party today. Then, of course, you have the important, it's not a standalone game. Of course, you need the core box for any feature film for Final Girl. Included in this box, exactly what you would expect, but it does note Epic Finale card. Ryder Games, all the legalese and addresses and all that good stuff, UPC, and that same information we saw there on the bottom. So we're going to start actually by looking at our location, which is Buddyland, which is much simpler than Billy. So we have Buddyland, and there's a little symbol. It is a joystick. It does have one of those standard location trays with the two wells up here for things like tokens and miniatures. Then you have your well here that's essentially divided into a large area for the small cards and a much shallower area for the large cards. But all do fit sleeved, again, if you use 60 micron sleeves or thinner. Here is your Buddyland rule sheet. It is super simple. It's art on the other side. You don't even need a second side of rules. There is no special setup whatsoever. The only thing that is unique here is that there are arcade spaces that may be referenced by specific use of an icon. And this is the map for Buddyland. So you have your 3 spaces for item cards for your 3 search spaces. Those are the prize counter, the ball pit, and the dining area. And then you have your place for your setup card and whatnot here. You have an exit here on the north, exit here to the south. Those are the only exits this time around. And here in the center, you have those weird purple spaces with these little icons of an arcade cabinet next to it. Those are the arcade. Now, I'm actually just going to leave Buddyland up here. Kind of ironic given there's a place for the location board there, but it'll leave it up here so that we can sort of stack some cards on it to indicate just how many cards actually are referencing the arcade mechanism. So we have, as is typically the case, 8 new terror cards. We have Solitary Danger. It's Playtime. They Want Her. Hungry for Blood, which uses different specific spaces on the board, but not the arcade. Earthquake. No Time for Games. I love these where there's a level of sort of random effects that can happen, although in this case, whew, they're mostly bad. How'd They Sneak In? Another rolling one. And then, named after one of my favorite bands of all time, Brendan Urie is awesome, Panic at the Disco. And this is the one terror card that directly relates to those arcade spaces. So if there are no victims in arcade spaces, discard and draw the next terror card. That's pretty standard. There's an effect that just can't happen. Panic all victims in each arcade space. If a victim panicked into a space with an enemy, the victim is killed. If no victim was killed, increase bloodlust by 1. So nothing particularly unusual with it, but specific to the arcade spaces, which is made of 4 spaces here in purple. So there's one card referencing it. Then we have our 5 setup cards here. We have Pizza Party, Birthday Bash, Playin' Hooky, Buddy Day, and Hide and Seek. Then, as always, we have 10 event cards. So we have 3 that use the special victim meeples. We have Nick the Janitor, Pizza Delivery, and Birthday Girl. And some regular ones, Buddy Up, Sing Along, Party Time, Hidden Prizes, Playtime Shenanigans, and then one that actually does deal with the arcade spaces, Broken Machine. If there are any victims in arcade spaces, enemies will move toward the closest victim in an arcade space when targeting either anyone or victim, and you discard it when one in that space is killed, so it's like the machine itself is like drawing them from the noise. And you have one that actually uses a token. It just uses the little skull token here, and that is Tragic Collapse. Basically, the ceiling is going to collapse in on you because it's just this rickety old building. Then we have our 16 item cards here. We have Fire Axe, Birthday Cake, Food Tray, Leftover Pizza, Energy Drink, Flash Camera, Security Badge, Janitor's Mop, which are all ones that are just sort of regular item cards. Then we have some that use tokens. We have Bag of Marbles. Spend 1 time to place a marbles token in an adjacent space without one. If anyone enters a space with a marbles token, discard it and they lose 1 health. And that is not a damage, that is just an automatic loss of health that cannot be prevented. Unless you're grandma, but that's a whole other thing we talked about in the Series 3 video. There are 3 uses, hence 3 marbles tokens. Then we have the chain, which uses the chain token here. It's a weapon. You may discard when you damage an enemy and place the chain token in their space. Until the chain token is removed, that enemy cannot move or attack. Remove the chain token at the end of the killer phase. So you can whip it around to attack from range 0 or 1, or you could actually sort of stick them in place, but only until the end of that killer phase. So maybe do this early in the action phase to be able to get in some hits. And be safe because it's at the end of the killer phase, so you won't get attacked by anything, with the killer action, terror cards, stuff like that. Then we have the one that uses a token that would also be able to be replaced by a quote-unquote vehicle from the miniatures pack that again has not been released yet. I'll show you those when they arrive. We have the security bot using this little token here. Kind of reminds me of Chopping Mall, I think is the movie that had it, or kind of Robbie the Robot from Nintendo. Place the bot token in your space. When you gain movement effects, you may use them to move the bot instead. Up to 2 victims may follow the bot, and victims in an exit space with the bot can be saved. So it's kind of like a proxy version of you. It kind of reminds me of the Jordan bot in one of my favorite Awakened Realms light games, Tamashi. And then you have 3 that directly reference the arcade spaces. So the pinball machine token. Discard while in an arcade space for +1 die when resolving action cards for the rest of the action phase. Nice. Arcade token, discard while in an arcade space to spend 3 time for reducing horror by 3. And then claw machine token, discard while in a arcade space to look through the unused item cards and take one of your choice. So again, when I talk about Buddyland as kind of a simple location, maybe even an introductory level location for people to try playing at, it is because its only special mechanic is that arcade area, those 4 spaces, and those are really only referenced, as we see here, by 3 items, 1 event, and 1 terror card. So for the most part, it plays as just a general location without a lot of stuff to keep track of. On the other hand, the killer in this box is pretty complex. Not as much so as something like, the Hunter, but still pretty complex here. So we have Billy the bear with a little bear symbol down here. And this one, for what it's worth, because of the way that Billy and the buddies move around the map, you're going to have tokens here. But you could get the miniature pack that's going to include a ton of miniatures to go with it. And as such, they actually needed a different way to design the insert for this to have any chance of actually fitting all of those miniatures. So the way that the insert is set up here is you have sort of this small tray up here, which is where I currently have all the tokens, where you'll put a bunch of miniatures in here. Though, of course, there's no miniatures except for the robot on the other side, so you could put some stuff inside the insert for Buddyland. Then underneath, you have another piece here, but it's all kind of one thing. There's a cover that you can pull off, a little plastic cover, and then you take out all the cards, all of which are these regular size cards, except the ones on the bottom. There are no small ones for Billy. And then underneath, you've got these large cards for Billy. Now, what I did was I took a little slip of paper and just cut it to make it easier once they're sleeved to just lift them out of here. Obviously, this is not part of the package itself, but once you sleeve with tarot sleeves, it's a little tougher to get them out of there. So I just put tarot sleeves on them, from Fantasy Flight in this case, stuck them on in there, but went ahead and put the paper underneath just to make it a little easier to pick them up. So a rather different style of insert to accommodate Billy here. There is, of course, a little rule booklet here for Billy. You have components on the front. You have all the rules you need across a 2-page spread, and then just art on the back. But bear in mind, the buddies are considered minions, so it does remind you here that you need to familiarize yourself with the minion rules on those last couple of pages here of the core rulebook. So here is Billy's killer board. Spaces for 2 minor dark powers. Horror starts at 4. Health starts at 8. Notice the buddies are going to use minion actions. So you need to make sure you're familiar with the minion rules from the base game. But you have minion and killer, with minions going first. Space of your finale and dark power cards, of course. And then here is the track. Notice here that the track has some symbols we haven't seen before. These little bear heads, little silhouettes with A or B. So what do those mean? Well, before the game, you're going to grab these tiny little tokens here. Some say A, some say B. There are 4 of each. You'll take all the ones of a particular type, in this case A, shuffle them up, and then deal 1 out to each of those spots. And when the bloodlust level reaches that level, you flip and reveal it, and whatever's supposed to happen will happen. So for A here, you got 1 that's safe with no effect. 1 could cause you to discard the next terror card. 1 could increase horror by 1. And 1 could spawn a buddy, which is one of those minions, these sort of special minions for Billy that we're going to see. For the B type, we have one that's no effect, one that spawns a buddy, one that spawns a buddy in your space, and one that discards the next terror card. So basically, the same options, except instead of raising horror by one, B has that possibility of spawning a buddy in your space. But notice there are only 3 of each type of space on the track, so there's always one that'll be left out, so you never quite know what you're going to run into or in what order. As for the buddies, those special minions that he has, you have 2 special buddies, and you have 5 regular buddies. They are all, as I mentioned before, tarot-sized. The 5 regular buddies are Roxy, Cam, Allie, Raimi, and Toby. And then your 2 special ones that you set aside, just in case they come into play later, are Boris and Billy Jr. At the start of the game, you're going to spawn a buddy. Without the miniature pack, they're all just represented by a token, but they all have a picture matching the individual, like so, on the back. Essentially, spawning a buddy just means that you draw the first buddy from the buddy deck and put it into play, and you're going to take that token or miniature once they come out and put it in a space adjacent to Billy that doesn't have another buddy already in it, and now they're in play essentially as this special type of minion. I say special type of minion because most minions all operate off of sort of one card or one set of information that applies to all of them. Not true for these. These are kind of like mini bosses almost. They all have their own health value up at the top that you'll put onto them in hearts when they spawn. They have a number here, which is essentially their speed. It's their order of operations. So essentially what's going to happen is when you need to activate the buddies, such as for the minion action, then you're going to do that in order from lowest to highest in terms of their speed up there. Then each one has its own attack value and movement value and a kill reward. So when you take out that particular buddy by knocking their health down to 0, you get whatever the kill reward is. So for Roxy, it's take any top item card. Roxy only has 1 health. Not too bad to deal with. Cam has 2 health, but is pretty slow and has a special effect. Victims do not panic if he's the only enemy in their space, and the reward is to take a guard card, and so on, and so on. Toby is the one that I find the roughest because he has 3 health. He acts first. He is slow and doesn't hit terribly hard, though that's enough to kill a victim. But if he does kill a victim, Bloodlust increases an extra space. It always increases 1. This increases it an extra 1. And the kill reward is only 2 times. When Toby comes out, that's a bad day. And for what it's worth, if one of these is in Billy's space, Billy cannot be attacked at all. You have to attack the buddy first. They're protecting him with their animatronic life. For what it's worth, if the kill reward isn't activated during the action phase, because you don't actually kill them during the action phase, maybe you hit them with a retaliate during the killer phase, you just wait and take the reward at the beginning of the next action phase. There are again 2 special buddies that'll come into play under circumstances we'll see in a moment. They are Billy Jr. and Boris. Notice that Boris, super powerful, hits for 3, health of 4, movement of 2, kill reward is just to take any 1 action card, but he moves last. Billy Jr. moves nearly last, only 2 health, 1 attack, always in the same space as Billy, and no movement of his own. He follows with Billy wherever Billy goes. Now again, one of the ways that they will activate is through that minion action during the killer phase. We of course find those on the back of the finale cards. Again, you just line this up, and it tells you which row goes with the minion versus the killer. We've seen that on other films before. So in this case, a typical minion action, again, activating from lowest number to highest for however many of them are on the board, is to target anyone in their space, preferring victim over final girl, and to attack 1 attack. But they don't move in that case. That's all going to be stuff that ties into the terror cards. And then also without a move action, same kind of attack here for Billy as the killer, but notice you have this little symbol here, which is a battery with a heart in it. When you start the game, you're going to grab 4 of these 5 power tokens. One of them will be set aside. It may come into play later. The power tokens have an on and an off side. And even before revealing the setup card, so you would know where the killer, final girl, and victims are, you're going to place 4 of these out onto your map, wherever you choose, as long as they are not in adjacent spaces. But as long as even one of these is active, this symbol is going to mean that Billy heals 1. Now, he heals 1 total, regardless of however many are active. But the only way to keep him from healing 1 is to turn off all of the power sources by basically running over them, even if you're just moving through, which is nice, and spending 1 time. So our finales are It's Showtime, Encore, Sizzling Power, and then Power Surge, the epic finale, which again, in previous series would have been in the bonus features box, but instead, starting with Series 4, it is automatically being packaged inside the feature film boxes. Notice that this one is the one that will spawn Boris, and you have to kill Billy and Boris to win. Then we have his 4 dark power cards, one of which is an epic dark power, which has been included since the beginning as part of a feature film box, thanks to a stretch goal in the original campaign. So we have Endless Power. Introducing Billy Jr., which is what will cause Billy Jr. to actually come into play, that special buddy. Deathlust, and then Merciless Minions, the epic dark power. So again, Boris only comes out with Power Surge. Billy Jr. only comes out with Introducing Billy Jr. But notice, one is a dark power, one is a finale, so in theory, you could wind up with a game where they both appear. But they won't appear at all without these being in play. That's why there are these special buddies rather than just regular buddies like the other 5. Then we have 16 total tarot cards. We have 2 copies each of Do the Splits, 2 of Tra-La-La, 2 of Surprise, Power Surge, which is where that other power token comes in. This will put it into Billy's space on the board. Now there's 5 instead of 4. Animatronical. He's turning them back on. They're alive. Regroup. They're here for blood. Eyes in the dark. It's a short circuit. And then you have 2 different minor dark powers, Renewable Energy and Backup Generator, which both deal with his specific mechanism there with the power. Renewable Energy, you can't deactivate any power sources that are on while health is still on this card, while this is still in play. And Backup Generator, during upkeep, activate 1 turned off power of your choice if able. If 1 was activated, remove 1 health from this card. So the health here is just regular health, hit it to get rid of it, but also kind of acts as a timer. You'll notice on some of these, like Do the Splits, by the way, that instead of it just being sort of a generalized killer action where the minions would go, then the killer would go, and in this case, the minions would go in ascending order of their speed number up in the corner. Instead, some of these will tell you if it's buddies only or Billy only. So like in the case of Surprise, they'd all go for the top row here, but then Billy only for the bottom row. And I keep calling this a speed number. It's their initiative number. I don't know why I keep calling it speed, but initiative is the proper term. Then your 2 new final girls for this feature film, which are typically found on the killer side, are going to be Gwen and Raina. So for Gwen, notice here, 5 health. Every single victim save, of which there are 4, reduces horror by 1, as does any additional victim saved. Her special ability, once per turn, when you make a horror roll with only 1 die, reduce horror by 1. So she's a horror-reducing machine. You may choose to make a horror roll with only 1 die, regardless of the horror level. So if you want to lower horror, that'll happen as you save victims. It'll also happen if you roll 1 die because you happen to be in the red zone of the horror track, but also you could just choose to do that and get that benefit. Then we have Rena, 6 health, 5 slots of different types. 1 has her taking a guard, 1 has her taking the top item card from something, move 1 space, reduce 1 horror, plus 1 health. So kind of a nice mixture there. And then for each additional victim saved, it's plus 1 time. And her ultimate ability there, once per action phase, you may take 1 0-time card from your discard pile. Doesn't sound like much, but it's pretty sweet. In essence here, for what it's worth, because we won't be able to look at it until it actually is produced and arrives, this is basically what you'd be getting in that Bad Times at Buddyland miniatures box. You would have miniatures for all of the buddies, regular and special, for the 2 final girls, for the 1 vehicle, which in this case is a security bot, and for Billy himself. So that's a total of 11 miniatures just for this film. Then, of course, as is standard for any feature film, Gwen and Rena also both get secret envelopes found underneath the inserts of the film box, 1 on either side. And yes, that new special insert for Billy can actually be removed entirely. You just don't need to get stuff out of it, typically. So, if you're someone who's just interested in what is going on here with Billy at Buddyland, you've now seen everything except the contents of these secret envelopes. If you're interested in picking it up, of course, You can eventually get retail. They did the pre-order already for the US. They're doing the game found as of the time I'm recording this, but it may be done by the time that I actually get this edited and released. But they do have that game found campaign for all the summer releases, including this one. But it's going to be fairly easy to come by because it is part of this initial launch of just regular Series 4. You can also eventually get it, at least if plans stay the same, during that Series 4 Kickstarter or game found campaign, whatever it might be, to basically just get everything at once if you like. But if you're a fan of something like, a Five Nights at Freddy's kind of thing, or you have fond, maybe creepy memories of places like Showbiz Pizza Palace or Chuck E. Cheese, this might be one to pick up. Again, the map is relatively straightforward for those who are new, and honestly, Billy is a pretty good and unique way to get used to the minion rules without having a ton of minions out at a time. You might have multiple buddies out at a time, but typically you'll be able to keep that number down if you start attacking them, so it's just a good way to get a handle on those minion mechanisms. Just know that the minions here do have a little bit more uniqueness to each one than what we'd see in a typical film. So, with that, thank you for watching. If you don't want to see any spoilers, if you do want to be spoiled on what is inside each of these secret envelopes, that's what we're covering next. If you don't want the spoilers, thank you for watching. If you do want them, keep on watching. And here are your envelope contents. As always, they're a special item just for that character. So for Gwen, we have Gwen's flash camera. And then for Rena, we have Rena's mop. And yes, as always, each envelope just comes with the little sheet telling you how to use it. And the envelope, of course, now states, starting with Series 2 and their printings since then, that basically you need to win a game with that final girl before you're able to open this up and then use that special item. Again, that was not part of the rules for the original Series 1 Kickstarter, but something that fans came up with that the team loved so much that they went ahead and made it official. Now we're done if you wanted spoilers, so again, thank you for watching, and we'll be back with more content of Final Girl as it is released.